What is my top 10? I've been slowly drifting away from an idea of this structured top 10. I think now is a good point where I've got enough games that I think are of exceptionally high quality. Every game on this list I would rate at least an 8 out of 10 and just put the top 10 in. Obviously, if you have eyes, you might notice that there is just a little bit more than 10 games in this thing that I've made here with all the games. There is actually 28 games, I'm pretty sure, so obviously we'll be throwing out some of these games as we go to rank them. So the idea is I'm just going to bring up each game, see if it belongs in the top 10, and then do a few passes of that until we have 10, and then we're going to rank them. So we start with The Last of Us. Obviously, I'm going to drag the game in question to the middle of it. We start with The Last of Us. I mean, it's a classic game. It's, some people said it went from Mario, you jumping on turtles. The very next game after that was this game, and this had story and 3D graphics. This was the second game ever made. So because of that, I think it's a good idea to put it in my top 10 somewhere. Obviously, there's more nuanced discussion to actually have about this game. The reason I didn't put Part 2 on, I actually probably would say Part 2 is better because it's, first of all, it's better gameplay by far, like 10 times better gameplay. I like the story better. I know, send the crowd out. The only thing I would say this does better is just the pacing and the memory of the game. It's just, you got them distinct areas that are all really different. Part 2's just got the same thing. I really like the setting in Part 2, but it's very samey. The game's very samey across the board and it's longer, so you can get a bit worn out of Part 2. I don't think you can get worn out in Part 1 because I'm about to say it's a more perfect game. It has excellent story, it has excellent gameplay, but Part 2 has better, obviously, as I'm saying. It has excellent rating. You can say what you want about Part 2 with the rating, but I think it has excellent rating, so that wouldn't be going towards it. But what it doesn't have is excellent pacing, excellent variety, excellent setting. So I think this does have excellent pacing, excellent variety, excellent setting in Part 1. So I think a pacing is a very big part of the game, so it goes on here instead of Part 2. And for all those reasons listed is also why I would say it's one of the closest to a perfect game you can get. So I'm going to put this in the top 10. So games I'm putting in the top 10 I'm just going to put up here to a visible part of the screen. So next we have Walking Dead. I was going to put all 4 seasons on separate, but I just said, nah, that's not happening. Because if I did that, 3 of the spaces would be, maybe 3 of the spaces would be occupied by a Walking Dead season by Telltale, which I think would have been a bit annoying for the final list. Especially considering if you're going to play one of them, you're going to play all of them. And if you play some of these later down the line games, like it's God of War, if you play that game, you can play that on its own. You can sort of play God of War 2018 on its own, but you might want to play Ragnarok sometime down the road. If you're going to play this, you need to just play it all in one go, or you're going to forget it all. There's going to be a problem. It's a better experience when played as one game, and it's about as long as one gets, like 30 hours long book, basically, story, visual novel, whatever you want to call it. And since about 4 years ago when I first played it, I've just maintained the feeling that this is one of the best stories you can be told in a game. And for that, it is going in the top 10. It has consistently been sort of around my top 10. At some point, when I did still do a top 10 in the past, it was at number 1. And you have to give it time to cook in your brain. You can play a lot of these games, and a lot of these games are considered like one of the best games ever made. This will be in my top 5 sort of thing for all of these games. The problem with doing that is recency bias. You just played something, you just invested your time into it, so you have a closer connection to it. After time away, I've not played this again since the last time I played it on stream all the way through. So, but it's still up there, so it has to still be up there. Undertale. Now this possibly could be in the top 10. I mean, all of them are. That's why I put them up as candidates. But the thing is with Undertale is that I've sort of seen now with Deltarune how much better a game like this can be. Because yes, it's got good music and it's got a really good story and it's got okay art. It's got alright art, but it's got expressive art. But it doesn't, you know what I mean? It's sort of a bit rough around the edges. It's sort of a bit dated now in terms of how funny it can be found, because it's all sort of like, a lot of it is like slapstick and all this sort of humour. But I mean, you've got stuff like, like the kawaii and all this, like the stuff that was funny in 2015, and I would say only about half that is still funny in 2025. And obviously the main part of this game is that it's funny, especially now since you can see the level of game that Toby Fox can make in terms of variety with Deltarune. I doubt it will go in the top 10. because if it does, it'll be sort of like down here somewhere, I presume. And also, it will be usurped by Deltarune. I don't really want to put two of the same series. I know it is the same series. Come on, this, Deltarune is a prequel to Undertale. We're past that point, I think. It's gonna, there's gonna be two games of the same series, and I don't really want to do that. I'm already like, these two games are quite similar. I don't, you know what I mean? I'm already on that point, so I think I'm going to discard Undertale. Though it would be definitely in the next 5, so that's why I'm going to move it down there. But discard is just, I'm going to bring it off the screen. Next we got the 2 Jedi games. I'm going to start with Survivor. Survivor obviously came out, it was a bit buggy on PC, it didn't really work properly. I mean, you've got so many different things added to the systems of the previous game. You've got the fact that it's more open, you've got more characters, you've got more gameplay, lots more gameplay styles, and you've got a longer game, I'm pretty sure, with, a bigger world, all that. I liked it. I really liked the game. Honestly, as I said, it's everything here is 8 out of 10, but I consistently keep saying, and I don't think it's going to change, is that I enjoyed my time with Fallen Order more. I'd probably contest that this is a better game, and if you wanted to play one of these games, I would probably recommend Survivor, because it's more traditional in a sense, with the sort of open world. There's more gameplay to it, and it's worth the money more. And if it wasn't so buggy, I probably would have enjoyed it more. But even still, I feel like I enjoyed my time with Fallen Order more. And I'm already a bit shaky about whether Fallen Order's going on the top 10, so I'm going to have to discard Survivor. As I said, I would recommend it someone more, but as a personal enjoyment scale, which obviously as the tier list goes off, this will go off. I enjoy Fallen Order more, because where people had problems with the navigation of the map, I thought, I had the same problems at the start of the game. I hadn't really played many Metroidvania games. I'd finished Ori at that time, and I was waiting for Will of the Wisps. But, I think a lot of people don't get that's what this game is. It's a 3D Metroidvania game, and yes, there was easier ways to display the map. You can see that with Survivor, the way they did the map. But in Fallen Order, I feel like part of the learning of the game is learning the map and learning which ways to get places. Especially since there's a lot of places with enemies and big enemies that are sort of in your way. And to a point, I like what Survivor did, changing the entire level design of the world, making it a big open world instead of more of a Metroidvania. Even though it still has those elements of like lanes and then coming back a different way or coming back the same way because you've unlocked something. I think it was done better in Fallen Order for my own way of discovering how to sort of go through the map. I'm going to just put it up there now. Obviously I can put more than 10 up there initially. I'm going to put it up there now, with the pretense that it might get took off that top 10 at some point. Next is a very similar game, Sekiro. I'm really surprised that this game came out the same year as the Jedi games. I obviously played it after the Jedi games. I'm pretty sure I played it for the first time last year. But the Jedi games are so similar to it, I'm surprised that they came out the same year, that they couldn't really have took inspiration from each other. Because Jedi games, it's basically closest to Sekiro, but obviously easier. Sekiro was such an achievement to me, in terms of finishing it and getting through it, because apparently it's the hardest Souls game, but I thought it was the easiest. I've not played any of the other ones, but I'm having much of a harder time with Elden Ring than I have had with Sekiro. And I fought like the hardest boss in the game, as like noted by most lists, which was the final boss of the game, the special version of him, whatever it was. Very good music, I mean very good world design, just about as long as you'd want it to be, and it's just so satisfying. It's just some of the best gameplay I've ever played in a game. And if Jedi's go in there, this gave me the same feeling, if not more, of feeling of like, I'm getting through this. Obviously, it's Star Wars, it might win on world design, but it goes up there. It goes up there for now. Now we're on to a little bit of a Resident Evil spew of games. So I've put 3 games in here that I think are the Resident Evil games that I'm likely to have put in the top 10, perhaps. Which are 7, 2 Remake, and 4 Remake. And 7, scariest game. I mean, this might not be saying much, but 7's probably the scariest game I've ever played. It's just so different than all the Resident Evil games that came before it, and even came after it. Even Requiem seems like a game that is leaning a little bit more into the Resident Evil 2 sort of thing. Not just in setting, but in how the game plays, the fact that you can go into third person and all this. The setting is, I would say it's the best setting in any Resident Evil game. 4 is cool, but it's a bit cheesy. Obviously, the entire 4 is cheesy, but like the setting itself, like, oh, it's the middle of nowhere in Europe. It's cheesy. 8 is just a copy of that. and 2 is all the rest of them are sort of classic. I can't think of many media. I mean, obviously there will be, like, there's stuff like not like Blair Witch, but like sort of found footage, early stuff like that, and then obviously some sort of slasher horror sort of genre stuff that Resident Evil 7 comes off of. But the setting, just being a sort of a regular house that's just sort of horrible. The fact that they made that the most scary game in the entire franchise, it's fun enough. The puzzles are very good. I mean, there's really nothing wrong with it in terms of a Resident Evil game, and it might go lower down on the top 10. So I'm going to put it up there. Oh, I've pushed everything out of the plate door. But yeah, Resident Evil 2 Remake is not going in the list. And the simple reason it's not going in the list is because 4 Remake is right there. But I will just sing its praises. The second scariest Resident Evil game I've ever played. I think it's the best puzzles, just because the setting is just so well made for walking around, sort of unlocking stuff, and like Metroidvania sort of feeling that a Resident Evil game can sort of have. It's not going on the list, because if you're going to include 2 games with Leon Kennedy in the top 10, you're not going to, and if Leon Kennedy isn't going to be any, it's Resi 4. Obviously, X Gun Give It To Your Mod makes this game 10 times better. He might even put it into number 1 on the list, but it's not there for now. 4 Remake is above the original 4 for me. Obviously, the original 4, there's a lot of lines that they didn't keep in to make the game cheesy, but I think they did enough to sort of fit it in with Resident Evil 2 in this sort of really good way. But 4 Remake, I mean, the gameplay's 25 times better. Obviously, the graphics are better, but we're not counting on graphics for any of this. But Resident Evil 4 Remake, it's the best remake ever made, I think. I've not played the Final Fantasy one. I know that that's like high up there in terms of other people's lists of best remakes, but I think this is the best remake ever made. I mean, it's perfectly capturing what the idea of Resident Evil 4 is. It's a modern game that pushes the boundaries of the franchise. Like, I couldn't be more happy with the way it turned out. It's long, it's still long, they've not made it shorter. It's still really fun, and they did the DLC. You have to consider it. Next we've got Red Dead 2. I'm going to instantly put it up there, but before I do put it up there, I'll do a slight reasoning. Obviously, one of the best stories ever told. Not in gaming, just ever. The interactivity, the way the world sort of just conforms around the story. The amount of content in the game, but none of it feels boring. It's a perfect simulation. Like, it's fun enough to the point where, like, you can still enjoy the game as sort of an arcadey game, and you go around shooting things, but there's so much of a deeper level when you go hunting, when you go fishing, when you set up camps. I used to just do that, try and get some of the achievements, doing the gambling achievements that I'm currently on, taking ages. I mean, I don't think there's a single fault with this game when it comes to anything regarding the story, atmosphere, world. Gameplay the missions can be a bit repetitive, but it's still fun. And like, when a game has that good of a story, it just has to go up there, and then everything else is just cherry on top to make sure it's going in that ranking. Portal 2 is the top game on my tier list. Probably gonna have to go up there. But first I'll say, there's not a more compact experience that you can come out of and say, I've just played something excellent. I've just played the best puzzle game ever made. You can do that when coming out of Portal 2. You can go in there, you can play the game. It takes 3 hours, maybe 5 on your first playthrough. Some of the funniest sort of voice acting, some of the funniest game that there is, that it holds up across all ages. I mean, I found it funny when I was like 8 years old, and I still find it funny now. Obviously it gets old because I've played it so much, but that's the thing about it as well, as replayable. Some of them later stages especially, easily you can forget how to do them and go through them again. It spawned some of the best mods and best modding support communities. Other than it's definitely Valve's most recent sort of console masterpiece that you can play on consoles. Half-Life Alyx obviously should have been on this list, to be honest, but I don't think it would go in top 10. It's so good. Yeah, I mean, it's such an easy recommend. It's such an easy game to run. There's no reason for someone not to play Portal 2. Not a single reason. It's one of the most perfect games to ever release. It's got good music, graphics are still good, and it's it's a 14-year-old game now. Next we got both Ori games. I mentioned them a little bit before when I was talking about Jedi, and I played these before. I did Hollow Knight, which is also somewhere around here. But the thing is, I think only one of these will possibly go in the top 10. And as much as I love Will of the Wisps, I think it's it's a good evolution on the first one. Because it's the second one, a lot of it does lean on the first one. which later on might bite me when I say that God of War Ragnarok's better than God of War 1. But that's in a different way. You know what, actually, no, I disagree with myself. I think Will of the Wisps is the one that's going in the top 10, if either of them. It's just better than the first one. The map's better, the map's more navigable, but it's still a good Metroidvania map. It's got so much better gameplay with the different weapons. The story's better. The ending was just insane. I considered that the ending would be, you know, how Ori 1 started, that the ending of Ori 2 would be like, Honestly, that was such a good ending. Good ending, as in like well written and impactful ending. Let's put it that way. Having the bird, you know, it was just absolute cinema of a game. Beautiful looking game, one of the best looking 2D games I've ever played. One of the best art styles I've ever laid eyes upon. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, to be honest. Blind Forest is that, but it's a bit worse. I mean, the gameplay's a bit worse and all that, but its initial setup for the story, and some of it, like, with no quests. This has quests and stuff flying around. This one doesn't. I'd rather, to be honest, not have those things from that. So there is a few things to redeem this over that, but I think I have to keep Will of the Wisps up at the possible top 10. I've moved the stupid thing again. No Man's Sky is a funny one because I've never been deeper into a survival game than No Man's Sky, building massive bases, getting all the freighters, doing all the possible quests given out. But I can see sort of remnants of the way the game launched in the way the game is now. I'm not saying it's bad or anything. I'm just saying you can tell that it wasn't a fully polished game when it came out, and they can't go back and remake the game from the ground up. And there are, you know, it's still quite a buggy game, to be honest. And I've enjoyed all of the time I've had with it. It's probably the worst game that I've put on the candidates, but I still love it. I do think it's a very satisfying game to just sit down and lose time on. It's probably a solid 8 out of 10, not even an 8.1. It would just be right at the bottom of all these games. Mafia 1. Now, Mafia 1, I was going through my Steam library thinking of should this game be on the candidates list, and I saw Mafia Definitive Edition. I was like, perhaps, maybe, yes. You know what? I'll put it on. That's what I said to myself. Because it might even be in the conversation, and I think it is in the conversation. I just don't think it's not going to make the top 10. We have 9 games currently in the top 10. This is not going to be one that makes it up there, but I think it's one of the most surprising games in terms of I thought I was going to go into it and get a little bit of a game like it. You know, it's alright, you know, but I was pleasantly surprised. It was, you know, it's quite surface level. That's the one problem I have with it, is that you sort of just, you know, you go somewhere, you shoot, there's 3 different guns, and then you get in your car and you drive somewhere, and then go somewhere and you shoot, and you can upgrade your car and get all the different cars. There's nothing to do in the open world, but I don't think that was the point. There was never really a problem with not being released into the open world and not being able to do anything. Though I think if they did that, I think they should have just made it a linear game. It's sort of like a show. Was it like a show? There was a word they used to describe what type of open world it was. I'll put it on the screen. They said it was like some sort of type of world where, you know, you only go in to do the missions. There's nothing to do else. But the missions do carry a very good story, and while the gameplay is surface level, it is fun, and the graphics are incredible. But I don't think it's not reaching the top 10. It did what it needed to do very well. It just didn't do enough, is what I would say. So probably another 8, another 8.2, probably something like that. Now we're on Little Nightmares 1 and Little Nightmares 2. Initially, I'm thinking Little Nightmares 1's better, but then I'm thinking Little Nightmares 2 is better. So Little Nightmares 1 is scarier, and it's probably got a better atmosphere, but then 2, which I obviously played on the channel. I played 1 on the channel as well for the first time. Played 2 on the channel for the first time. I might play 3 on the channel for the first time, but considering it's like 50 quid for the game, am I going to pay that much for a Little Nightmares game at the end of the day? It's going to be about 3 hours long. I don't know. Yeah, loved Little Nightmares 1, loved Little Nightmares 2, and to an extent, it's just a bigger game. It's still as scary, it's just a bit different. And the plot twist at the end of Little Nightmares 2, I'm still gobsmacked by it. So while I think 1 is probably more objectively a Little Nightmares game, it's more like, this is the feeling of a Little Nightmares. The fact that the setting, I think, is better, you know, the boat. But you don't know it's a boat at the start, and then by the end you're like, oh yeah, this is a boat. A massive, massive boat with people hoarding their way onto the ship. It's just an incredible visual, but I think just there is a lot of improvement more in Little Nightmares 2 to justify it being up here. But should it, is the question. I think I'll just about give it a chance. because we will be culling games later on. I'll just about give it a chance because it's so interesting. The plot twist is one of the best I've had in a game. I'm going to put it up there. Life is Strange 2. This is going up there. This is definitely going up there. I think it's by far the best Life is Strange game. Life is Strange 1's just a bit... It's a little over dramatic, I feel like. I do like 1, but it's, you know, there's a lot of times where it just sort of goes on tangents to make you feel like the characters instead of actually putting the characters in these situations. 2 doesn't do that. 2 sort of just, you know, there's a few times when you'll go up and do something really useful for some like point in the mission of the story. Like, it will help the characters. The constant changing, each episode being very long and also very different sort of setting. Only the last 2 episodes have sort of similar settings. I just love the way this game works. I love the constantly shifting relationship between these two. The character's the best. I don't think not having the power is that big of a problem in this game, because in the first game it wasn't, you know, it was a puzzle element really in the first game that also luckily was a catalyst for the rest of the game, and in the future games after that no problem was caused. I mean, in True Colours, you could just use your power whenever you felt like it, and no storm would happen. In this one, he risked his life. He ended up in hospital. He destroyed things. And he, you know, you could tell that using the power was effective. Nothing like that happened in True Colours. And in Double Exposure, with the changing worlds thing, nothing really happened there either. I mean, a storm started happening, but that eventually gets revealed to not be because of Max. I think this is just easily the best Life is Strange game. It's got the best music. It's the longest one. There's the character dynamics. It's the most realistic Life is Strange game. It's definitely going up there. Inscription, I put on there because as I'm going through and I'm saying, oh, that's a good game, so it'll go on. This did come up as that's a good game, it's going on. I don't think it is going on in terms of like the actual top 10, but obviously it went on the candidates. Another game that's perfect at what it does, but there's just some problems. And the problems I mainly have with the game is, well, I knew that the game switched up after the first act. I don't really like the gameplay that happens after that. It all seems like worse gameplay of what the game, like this part of the game is, the start. You know, you've got the RPG pixel art part. I just think that every form of gameplay other than the first one is just worse. And I like doing the roguelike one. Obviously the game would have been much less of a full game if it was just a roguelike. So I like that while it isn't one, it can be one at the same time. And it's a side mode, which most indie games would just make that in the game. The metafictional stuff was very good. The ending was great, the story was great, the music was very good, the characters were very good. Just the gameplay got like worse throughout the game. You know, by the end I was like, yeah, I've had enough of the game. That's about as much as I'd like to play. So I don't put it in the top 10, I don't think. Now I really wonder if Hollow Knight will be in the top 10 of these games. Yes, it will. I'm waiting for Silksong as much as anyone, and I'm fiending for content regarding Hollow Knight as much as anyone. I can see where improvements can be made in Hollow Knight. I would put it in the top 10. So I'm happy to see that, but I feel like Silksong is opening a few cracks on what I used to think was a spotless game. I mean, it's still very good. It's one of the best indie games ever made for me. The music is excellent, the vibe is excellent, the art style is beautiful, the gameplay is simple, but it's good. That's where I think Silksong is going to really open the door, because a lot of these Metroidvanias have this simple gameplay for the first one, like Ori, and then they get better gameplay for the second one, like Will-O-the-Wisp. But as I said, with Will-O-the-Wisps, like some things are worse, like the quests and all that. And I'm pretty sure they're doing similar things in Silksong. But nevertheless, I still consider it one of the best games. It's the most surprising game that I've ever played, in terms of the fact that I didn't think this game would be approaching my top 50. I thought I would play it and it'd be like, oh yeah, that's fun, I finished it now. And this game approached my top 1 and took it for a long time, obviously with the recency bias sort of idea. Half-Life 2, another game I would heavily consider putting in the top 10, but I'm not going to. And the reason I'm not going to is because I've played it to death. Not a replayable game. I'm not even going to lie, it's not a replayable game. Not the way I play it, at least. And, you know, replayability doesn't really have to be a thing for any of these, but, like, it's a heavily unreplayable game, at least for me. The engine is what I go in the game for now. It's like, you know, running around doing the glitches and all that. That's what I find fun about the game. Obviously, it's got a good story, and it was revolutionary for the time, and the physics and all that, and it's still very high, and it's probably in the next top 10. I just wouldn't put it in the top 10 anymore, considering a lot of games have took what this is and done better bits of it. Maybe not a better full package, but like there are games with better physics, there are games with better music, there are definitely games with better gunplay, There are games that get better graphics, and you know, at the end of the day, it's not had the lasting impact of like when I bring up my favourite games. I'm not bringing up Half-Life 2. I am bringing up Portal 2, as I said, but I'm not bringing up Half-Life 2. Right, we're on the last 7 here, I think. It's 7. God of War Ragnarok is comparing here to God of War again. We got another twofer, and I would put Ragnarok in there out of them two. And the reason I would do that is while I think the story of God of War 1 is better, it's more consistent. It's more about Kratos. While obviously Ragnarok's about Kratos and the fate and that, but it's also a lot about Atreus, and you know you sort of lean more into him, and his sections of gameplay are boring. They're really boring, especially the Ironwood. Everyone complains about it, and for good reason. I mean, it's boring, but it is still a better game. I'd still say that there's a lot of parts of the story of Ragnarok, especially considering the end, the big actual Ragnarok fight, the fights with all the actual main bosses of Norse mythology. The maps, you know, the expansive new realms. Like, there's so many things in this game that are better than that, and there's not really anything other than the primary storyline that I would say this does better. So I'll just put this up there. In terms of God of War 1, I've moved the thing again. In terms of God of War 1, good. As I said, that's good. Definitely a 10 out of 10 for me, but I don't think it does enough to put it above Ragnarok. I guess within a personal enjoyment scale, definitely not. So I'm going to put it just down here. I like it. I'm only really trying to put 1 in, unless it's Resident Evil. I think I did 2 for Resident Evil, didn't I? Yeah. You know, I'm not trying to. So obviously one of them is going to have to go. Ghost of Tsushima, a very good game. I think there's a lot that can be improved with it though, and I don't think it would go in my resident top 10 because there's so many games here that do so much a higher level of things better. Oh, I don't know though, because I think that Ghost of Tsushima is the single 3D game with the best looking world ever made. It's so beautiful, the colours and everything, it's just so well put together. I don't think it's fair to not put it in the at least possible top 10s. The gameplay, it's cool, but it can get a bit repetitive by the end. The story is very, very good. The world is nice, but it's a bit small, and it gets very sparse at the top of the end of the game, and you think there's more, but there isn't. But you know, there is a very, very good story there, a very good protagonist, a very well written game, very beautiful looking world, a very satisfying gameplay, even though it, as I said, it's a bit repetitive. You know, I'll give it a spot for now. Deltarune. It's not finished. It's not going in the top 10. It's not finished, Deltarune. I can't put it in the top 10. It is not finished. It might be stinky these last 3 chapters. And then what am I going to say when I come back to it and it says that Deltarune's the number 2 game of all time? And then it ends with like a very boiling Chris or something. So let's just put this down there for now. It's not finished. I think it can be better than Undertale. If it goes on the pace it is, it's definitely going to be. But it's not finished. I can't put it on. Celeste. Very, very fun game. The only game here, other than Jedi Fallen Order, that I have 100%ed. I did the single player of Portal 2, but no one's ever done the multiplayer of Portal 2, so maybe that counts as well. And I had consistent fun with it, but I wouldn't put it on the level of like even Deltarune as its current state. It was obviously it was a Game of the Year nominee and all this, and it's definitely one of the best 2D platformers I've ever played in terms of the actual platforming. There's so much you can do with it. I've played a lot of the mods as well. I can't remember the strawberry whatever it is mod, strawberry jam I think it was. I've played a lot of that because there's so much community support in the mods as well. And obviously the B and C sides, the Farewell B side, whatever. I think Farewell is just on its own. Hardest thing that I've achieved in a game is completing that. 100% in this game is the hardest thing I've done in a game, and it took me countless hours. Let me just check my Steam. It took me 61 hours, and that includes the probably about 5 or 10 that I've played the Strawberry Jam for, to 100% this game. I do really love it, and I've spent second most amount of hours on Steam out of any game, I'm pretty sure. The games that I've not included on the list, I've not included Phasmophobia. I just know that it won't be in the top 10. I've not included Terraria because it's cheating. The same way if I put Minecraft on, it's definitely going to be number 1 in terms of... It's just the game that I played when I was a kid, so it's always going to be number 1. Same with Terraria, but I actually only played that recently. But similarly, I think it's cheating because a lot of the game is your own fun making, you know what I mean? So like, it's... So I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to demote you down here. Black Mesa is not going in the top 10 candidates because, for the same reason as Half-Life 2, which is that I don't think this is as good a game as Half-Life 2. generally. It looks better, and it's longer, and there's some nicer levels. But if I'm not going to put Half-Life 2 in, I'm definitely not putting Black Mesa in, because yes, I actually probably like Half-Life 1's events and story better than Half-Life 2, and I like the way it was shown in Black Mesa. But it's, at the end of the day, it's got the same gameplay as Half-Life 2. It's very derivative of Half-Life 2. The Zen section's very good, but you know that 5 hours can't put it in a top 10 games of all time list, especially against all of these fully made games. I was surprised they even wanted to put it in, because it's like, yeah, it belongs as a game that could perhaps be in the top 10, but it's not going in there. Finally, Alan Wake 2, and this is going to finish off this top list of games that goes in the top 10. Because it by far is the best game I played in 2023. If you heard that by far the right way, then you might realise that Resident Evil 4 Remake is on here, so this has to be on there, because I said it was by far better. I can't actually fit it anywhere. I know it's going in the top 10, it's definitely not going to be like up here and then maybe thrown away. So I'll just keep it down here for now, because it remains a candidate. So, how many games have we got that could be a top 10? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We need to remove 5 games from this list. And I think that those games are Resi 7, Little Nightmares 2, Ori, Ghost of Tsushima. This is very hard, this last selection. This is a very difficult last selection. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, we need to remove one. Which one of these has stayed with me the least? I'm gonna say Fallen Order, because comparing it to Sekiro, which is right next to it, that's the move, right? I'm going off the edge again. For God's sake. So here are my candidates for the top 10 game of all time. So I think we're gonna just look at them and say they're better. So like initially, like we'll put them down, bring them up. So let's just choose a random game. We'll put that at number 1, and then we'll compare it with another game, and then we'll keep doing it until we found the top 10. So this game, Resi 4, we're going to put that at number 1 to start off with. Portal 2. This is a big comparison, actually. Portal 2 versus Resident Evil 4. This is why I don't like having a top 10. This exact sort of question. These are 2 completely different games that do 2 completely different things. In terms of my sort of feeling of the games, initially I'm leaning towards Portal 2 being better. It's so much of a, as I said before, it's so much of a perfect game. It's exactly what the game itself needed to be. I'm going to start by putting Portal 2 above Resident Evil 4. Red Dead 2, I can't lie, it's better than both of these games. It just is better than both of these games. It's just such a good game. It's such a well put together game. So I'm going to put this in number 1. Let's go Life is Strange 2. My gut is saying look worse than all of them, but my heart is actually saying do that, I would say. Just the story is enough to carry this game. The memories that I have of this game is enough to carry this game to continuing to be higher than that. That's what I'm saying, at least. Next, God of War. Let's do God of War. God of War, worse than that, worse than that, worse than that. No. This right, so this is the issue. I'm going to actually move this back up here, because I actually do, I do think overall I would actually more like to play this game more than once, and while the story isn't as good, I would, yeah, because basically for the excuse of I want to say that this is worse than that, but it's definitely better than Life is Strange 2. So that's like the idea that I want to put as a product. So I can't do that without that also being better. Again, another reason why I don't like doing exact sorting. Alan Wake 2, as I said, it's better than Resi 4. Is it better than Portal 2 though? I'm saying it is. I'm honestly saying that it's such a good game. Until you've played it, until you've played Alan Wake 2, I don't think you realise like what the game has in store. And then it's such a creative game. It's so fun. It's like a Resident Evil game if it was as funny as a Portal 2 game. It's its own funny, but it's also very, very. It's actually probably dethroned Resi 7 as the scariest game I've ever played. So while simultaneously being the scariest game I've ever played, the most intriguing story of a game I've ever played, the most creative game I've ever played, especially at least in a AAA sort of setting, I just can't put it above Red Dead 2. It's just sort of faultless, Red Dead 2 in terms of the story. Next, I'll bring in Last of Us. So Last of Us, I think it's going at number 5, I would say. Immediately, sort of putting a number 5 though. Sekiro, I feel like Sekiro is long standing for number 10. I know that that's not ranking it based on the rest of them, but I would put it at number 10. It was very fun, but I don't really get what the story is. I like the world, but I think I knew that that game was probably going to end up at number 10. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, Walking Dead. Again, I'm feeling a number 4 here. I think maybe a number 5. Let's just move these two down. It's definitely better. I don't know if I would say it's better than The Last of Us, just as a general thing, because I'm definitely not replaying this as much. And as I love the story, and I think it's better than The Last of Us 1 story. As a whole product, the gameplay isn't great. I mean, obviously, and it can get a little repetitive, especially in season 1. I'm gonna just put it one below The Last of Us. That's something I would never have dreamed of doing in 2021, so that's why I have to wait for these reassessment times where I've not played any of these games in a long time. And then finally, Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight was once at number 1, but I think Alan Wake 2 is better than Hollow Knight. Do I think Portal 2 is better than... Portal 2 is such a perfect game. I'm going to put it at number 4, Hollow Knight. I'm going to put it at number 4. So, the final top 10 is... Okay, well, squeeze like that if you want. As long as you release Silksong. After removing all of the other games, these are the 10 games that I think best sort of encapsulate what I like about games. So I think finally my top 10 is complete. I finally sort of made one that I can agree with. This is set in stone. This definitely feels like a good top 10 to sort of lay on. I have been recording for quite some time. I didn't think it would take this long, so I don't know how much editing will be done to all of this. Like, my candidates are my candidates at the end of the day. There should be, well, I don't know when this is coming out. There should either be out or coming out a Let's Play. I'm going to reveal what it is. Yeah. It's the Return of the Obra Dinn. It is a game where you discover the fates of 50-odd people on a ship. Well, full of 60, but a few of them stay alive. I think it's a very interesting game. Doesn't fit on my top 10. Fits in me probably top 30, maybe top 40. I'm still doing the tier lists, so I guess you can see where it gets put there when that is out. But I've been so this has been the top 10. And goodbye.